So first of all, any image or video, MP4, whatever format you like, can be read as base64. And within that base64 is a human readable message that has certain components of the payload that point you in the right direction to, one, verifying that it's an authentic forged asset, that who the creator is, what, you can see the copyright, and you can get what we call the PCC, which is like a serial number to that asset, and that will drive you to be able to recover the asset. The recovery process is a decryption process that's proprietary, and we maintain the ability to provide that service for the recovery. But the other way to determine whether or not your asset is a valid forged asset is just to drag the asset into our hidden pixel inspector, and that will produce a broader data set than what you see in the human readable from the base64. There'll be a few more pieces of information there that'll help in the recovery process. But either way, you can either use the inspector to validate the forged image, or you can just open it with a text reader, and you'll get the base64. And at the end of the file, there's some human readable information there that will tell you that it's a valid forged asset.
And I need to kind of wrap a couple things up here real quickly, Glassy. First of all, we're going to have that reader, that tester. We're going to have that up on our website for you to play with in the next few days with a couple of little assets you can drag into there and do that with. So that's something people will get to see before the drop. And then second of all, yes, there are going to be some recovery service fees. And third of all, we're talking about here, we have set this up right now for the fine art collectibles market through SmartMoose, and we are going to make this available, the forged technology, the ability to put DDI level encrypted information into NFTs. We're going to make all that available as a product through SmartMoose before the end of the year. And the idea there is that this can become something that becomes like an industry standard for security. We're not going to sit here and say we're the only place you can get it. You'll be able to get it elsewhere to companies that have installed that service. So that's all cool.
Great.
Yeah,
no, that's great. I really appreciate you jumping in, kind of closing the gap on those key issues right there.
Yeah.
Especially on the recovery. I was actually just about to jump in to ask a question on that. You answered it before I could even ask it. So that's great. I love those kind of interviews. Makes it really easy. But yeah, let's this is what I'd actually like to do. We're probably running a little bit low on time. So I do want to touch on like some of the key problems that people have found, right? Like I think we jumped into some of our solutions. We talked a little bit about like this environment of all these scams and all these things going on. But there's two things that I have on my mind. One is to kind of touch on maybe some of the environment in terms of like specific issues that you've seen that you want to solve, or that you see that this solves. That's what I'm saying. And secondly, I'm seeing like there's new players that are now willing to come into Web3 once they know they have these kind of security assurances. And so I'd love to talk a little bit before we close down about some of those kind of parties, some of the people that are maybe extremely cautious about their IP, whether they be musicians or artists or really big, some of the giant cultural kind of components that you're working with. So I'd like to touch on that, but also just touching on the security layer, because I think one thing that we skipped over, and this is maybe easy to jump over on the security level, is the fact that the community education components that we're putting forward is yet another kind of line of defense when it comes to SmartMoose, and that being how we're educating people into best practices, and we're helping reinforce those practices through daily reminders. And really, as we're bringing and onboarding people into the space, and as we're bringing people into our community in particular, that we're always reinforcing and being mindful of those security practices, as well as installing them on the image layer before it's actually minted into the blockchain. And now once it's actually into the blockchain and minted and available for purchase through smartmoose.com, that any of those NFTs will actually have a recovery component to them. Just in case anyone missed that if your NFT is in some way, if there's like fraudulent activity, or if your NFT is lost or stolen, that you actually would have the ability to recover that. That's a major, major advancement in the world of NFTs. So I just wanted to kind of underscore all those key points, and then maybe just open the mic up for any of you fine gentlemen that might want to jump in on just some of these issues of security, some of the scams, some of the nonsense that you've seen. And then after that, we'll move into some of these other parties that you're ushering forward as partners.
Well, and one final little extra point there is, not only will we have the ability to recover it and regenerate it, but we'll also at that point turn off the other one. If anybody has stolen it and stuff like that, it even if they've managed to end up with the DNA intact or whatever, we have proven that it's yours, and we've connected it back through the transaction, and we've done the triple kind of court admissible check to do that, the smoking gun, so to speak. So we can turn off the old one. So anybody that tries to sell that, it's not going to pass the test. It no longer is an NFT. So, stealing our NFTs is going to be like, putting that the VIN number right on the ad for a stolen car. It's not going to work. And so that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, and I just a quick, I guess, jaunt into the creative side, and maybe we could circle back, is like what's so awesome about like our SmartMoose team is like people like Jeff and John. I mean, they're technologists, but they're deeply creative people. I mean, they've worked on over 100 big budget Hollywood movies, right? And if they want to say what they are, I'll let them say it, but yeah, everyone knows the movies they've worked on. And so it's like, with this technology, we're also introducing all this like deeply creative work. Like obviously we're introducing our Alpha Moose series on September 20th, but we already have 2 more series following it up of our own, which is introducing a type of media file that is not in any marketplace yet because it doesn't have our technology. Like, part of this optimization process I want to say it correctly, John, it optimizes a file from like 5-10 gigs down to 5 megabytes to fit within the default container of all the popular marketplaces out there. So when people see the type of media, it's like a little mini movie. I'm sure people have been trying to like force the square peg through the round holes and push too much media into the default container, and it starts to stutter. It doesn't load. I'm sure everyone's seen that. It has this like slow scroll. And yeah, so we're only company in the world that's going to be able to release like really high powered media right now. So
well, and it's even it's also important from a green environmental standpoint, David.
Yes,
is the fact that the files are smaller, they're cheaper to store, they're cheap. I mean, the fees go down, everything is good, but it's also green. It takes less space to do all this. And by the way, that was last week's figure. They've got it down to a 0.5 megabyte for that.
Well,
for the Noble Moose videos.
Every month it gets better.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It gets better.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about just a whole new way of treating these files. And the idea has always been cut the costs, cut the amount of electricity, cut the amount of hardware required to store it, cut, but don't cut one thing, and that is the resolution of quality.
That's because we're all stakeholders, you know. We have produced or written and sold various entertainment products, and we know what it feels like to get ripped off. We know what it feels like to have somebody pirate our material and see our product out there and know that we're not getting paid for the work that we did. And so when John originally called me up and said, "How'd you like to fight pirates?" I said, "Arg, let's do it." Because we know that the return on investment in these products gives us the opportunity to do more of what we love, which is storytelling and entertaining. And so that's really kind of where this was born from. And then, being old guys in the industry, we knew what it was like to make digital images and digital film, when technology was not as robust as it is today. I mean, back then we were, working on, pre-Pentium 1 machines with, very limited memory, very limited storage, and very limited network bandwidth. So as the ancillary technologies have become more capable across the board, I mean, in companies like NVIDIA and various storage companies like Seagate and others have worked so well to give us that power to create. We see that these technologies have kind of democratized the creative space, and with Web3 and blockchain removing intermediaries in that process, the ability for creatives to reach their audience directly is just creating an explosion of content. And so when we looked at that trend, from a macro level, we realized that 90% or more of the content on the internet is media content. And so that drove us at 𝙤𝙤𝙪 to look at how do we approach these technologies in such a way that we can give people opportunity to get their materials, get their assets, to their customers directly, and save money in terms of, direct costs for doing so, and give them the opportunity to protect them, so that they can recoup their efforts, their money, and put effort forth to do more. So this is, it's kind of a self-organizing system, if you will. It just kind of makes it possible.
One of my favorite terms.
Yeah, right.
One of my favorite terms, self-organizing systems. I actually did a whole morning show on that subject earlier this week. But that's great to hear. And it's really those overlapping areas that really help bring like a complete solution. It's not just like one facet and one issue. And that's kind of what I was looking to get to, is like, this isn't a one-dimensional solution, that this is looking at a holistic way of addressing this, from a security layer